November 22nd, 1963, in Dallas, Texas, at 12:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. President John F. Kennedy is doing a motorcade during his run for re-election when Lee Harvey Oswald, an American, shot John F. Kennedy with a rifle 3 times. He died immediately after the third bullet hit. America was grieving and on the brink of collapse. But then, on February 9th, 1964, the Beatles played their first show in America, and it was The Ed Sullivan Show. Yeah, The Ed Sullivan Show! The Ed Sullivan Show was a popular music show, usually drew in 20 million viewers. 73 million people watched the Beatles play on The Ed Sullivan Show. And that, my friends, is how Beatlemania began in the USA.
But first let's ask a simple question, who exactly are the Beatles? Their story begins in Liverpool in 1956, with John Lennon. He was playing a live show with his friends, when Paul McCartney approached him. He asked to join the band, but John was skeptical. Paul then played a song, and he was introduced to the band. Later in 1958, Paul brought in his school friend, George Harrison, who was allowed to join, despite his young age. On August 18, 1962, Ringo Starr is invited to join the band, which completed the Fab Four lineup. The Beatles released their first #1 hit Love Me Do in the end of 1962, which set off what was coined as Beatlemania, and the Beatles became a worldwide phenomenon. Due to their popularity, the Beatles became the single most important musical act of the 1960s. The members of the band are considered leaders of the youth of the time, promoting movements for equality, peace, and love. With their arrival in the US in 1964, they are credited with making full-length albums mainstream and singles a thing of the past. Modern music can be categorized in terms of pre- and post-Beatles eras. As leaders of the 1960s youth, the Beatles are attributed through their activism to have fueled movements such as the women's liberation, gay liberation, and even environmentalism. The Beatles' appearance on The Ed Sullivan Show in 1964 is considered by some the point when cultural and generational awareness truly began for the youth of the 1960s. The Beatles endured through the entirety of the 1960s, but in 1970 the signs that the band was headed for an end was truly evident, as McCartney left the band in 1970, marking the end of the band. The band, who had awakened a nation and the world and changed the face of music forever, had decided to part ways. Lennon, McCartney, Harrison, and Starr would go on to solo work and occasionally release music in partial collaboration, but the Beatles were never reunited. And on December 8, 1980, John Lennon was assassinated outside his apartment building in New York City, ending any hopes of a Beatles reunion.
And on that note, my voice is feeling better now. So this is the outro of the thing. And I hope you liked this presentation. I hope you the good job. I hope I did a good job.